Maya Johnson walked through the big doors of Westfield Academy for the first time. Her hands shook a little as she held her new school bag. The bag was old and had a small hole in one corner, but her mother had sewn it up with care. Maya looked around at all the other students. They looked different from her. Their clothes were new and expensive. Their shoes were shiny. Their bags had famous brand names on them. Maya was 12 years old and had dark skin. Most of the other students at Westfield Academy were white. She knew she was different here. She could feel people looking at her as she walked down the hall. Some students pointed at her and whispered to their friends. Maya tried to walk faster and keep her head down. The school was much bigger than her old school. The walls were painted white and had expensive art hanging on them. The floors were so clean they looked like mirrors. Maya had never seen a school like this before. Her old school had broken desks and old books. This school had everything new and perfect. Maya found her first class. It was English. She sat in the back row and tried not to look at anyone. The teacher was nice, but Maya noticed how the other students already knew each other. They talked about their summer trips to other countries. They talked about their big houses and swimming pools. Maya had spent her summer helping her mother clean office buildings at night. At lunchtime, Maya sat alone at a table in the corner. She had brought a simple sandwich from home. Around her, other students ate food from the expensive school cafeteria. They laughed and talked loudly about parties and shopping trips. Maya ate her sandwich quickly and tried to become invisible. After lunch, Maya had to find the music room. She got lost twice in the big school. When she finally found the right room, she was 5 minutes late. All the other students were already sitting down. The music teacher looked at her with angry eyes. "You must be the new student," the teacher said in a cold voice. "I am Mr. Peterson. In my class, we are always on time." Maya felt her face get hot with shame. "I'm sorry, sir. I got lost." Mr. Peterson looked at Maya from her head to her feet. He saw her old shoes that her mother had bought from a second-hand store. He saw her uniform that was a little too big because they had bought the cheapest size. He saw her old school bag with the sewn-up hole. His face showed that he did not think much of Maya. "Find a seat in the back," Mr. Peterson said. "Try not to be late again." Maya walked to the back of the room. She could feel everyone watching her. Some students smiled in a mean way. Others just stared. Maya sat down and opened her notebook. She tried to write down what Mr. Peterson was saying, but her hands were still shaking. Mr. Peterson started talking about music. He used big words that Maya did not understand. He talked about classical music and famous composers. Maya had never heard of these people before. At her old school, they barely had a music class. They sang simple songs and sometimes used old instruments that did not work very well. "Music is the highest form of art," Mr. Peterson said as he walked around the room. "It takes years of training and natural talent. Not everyone can understand real music." When Mr. Peterson said this, his eyes looked right at Maya. She felt like he was talking about her, like he was saying she could never understand music because of who she was. The other students in the class started talking about their music lessons. A blonde girl named Ashley raised her hand. "My piano teacher says I might be ready for advanced pieces soon," she said with a proud smile. "That's wonderful, Ashley," Mr. Peterson said. "You come from a family that understands culture." A boy named Brad talked about his violin lessons. Another girl talked about her singing coach. One by one, students shared stories about their expensive music lessons and the instruments their parents bought for them. Maya felt smaller and smaller in her chair. She had never touched a real piano. She had never had a music lesson. Her mother worked 2 jobs just to pay for Maya's school fees. There was no money for music lessons or instruments. Mr. Peterson walked to the front of the room. Behind him was a beautiful black piano. It was the biggest piano Maya had ever seen. The top was open and she could see all the strings inside. The keys were white and black and looked perfect. "This piano cost more than most people make in a year," Mr. Peterson said. "It takes real skill to play an instrument like this. It's not something you can just try to do." Again, Maya felt like he was talking about her, like he was saying she could never play something so expensive and beautiful. The bell rang and class was over. Maya packed her things quickly. She wanted to leave before anyone could say anything to her. But as she walked toward the door, she heard Ashley talking to her friends. "Did you see that new girl?" Ashley said in a loud whisper. "I bet she's never even seen a piano before." "She probably thinks music is just noise," Brad said, and his friends laughed. Maya's face burned with shame. She walked faster and got out of the room as quickly as she could. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and took deep breaths. She felt like crying, but she did not want anyone to see her tears. That night, Maya went home to the small apartment she shared with her mother. Her mother, Linda, was getting ready for her night job cleaning offices. Linda worked during the day at a grocery store and at night cleaning buildings. She was always tired, but she always asked Maya about school. "How was your first day, baby?" Linda asked as she put on her cleaning uniform. Maya wanted to tell her mother everything. She wanted to say how different she felt, how the other students looked at her like she did not belong, how the music teacher made her feel stupid. But when she looked at her mother's tired face, she could not do it. "It was good, Mom," Maya said. "The school is really nice." Linda smiled and hugged her daughter. "I'm so proud of you, Maya. This school will give you chances I never had. You're going to do great things." After her mother left for work, Maya sat at the small kitchen table to do her homework. But she could not stop thinking about the music class. She could not stop thinking about Mr. Peterson's cold eyes and the way he looked at her. She could not stop thinking about the beautiful piano and how the other students talked about their music lessons. Maya had never thought much about music before, but something about that piano had made her feel strange. When she saw it, she felt something deep inside her chest. It was like the piano was calling to her. But that was silly, she thought. She was just a poor girl who did not know anything about music. Maya finished her homework and went to bed. But she could not sleep. She kept thinking about tomorrow's music class and what Mr. Peterson might say to her next. 3 weeks had passed since Maya started at Westfield Academy. Every day felt the same. She went to classes, sat in the back, and tried not to be noticed. But music class was the worst part of her day. Mr. Peterson seemed to enjoy making her feel small and stupid. On this Tuesday morning, Maya walked into the music room and took her usual seat in the back corner. She always came early now so she would not be late again. Mr. Peterson was already there, writing something on the board. He did not look at Maya when she came in. The other students came in talking and laughing. Ashley sat in the front row with her friends. She always made sure Mr. Peterson could see her. Brad sat near the piano and sometimes touched the keys before class started. Maya watched them and felt like she was looking at people from another world. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat and the room became quiet. "Today we are going to do something different," he said. "I think it's time for you all to show me what you can do." Maya felt her stomach drop. She did not like the sound of this. "Each of you will come to the piano and perform for the class," Mr. Peterson continued. "This will show me how much you have learned about music. It will also show me who has real talent and who does not." Ashley raised her hand quickly. "Should we play a piece we know, or can we choose anything?" "You may play anything you like," Mr. Peterson said. "But remember, I will be judging your skill level. I want to see what you can really do." Maya felt panic rising in her chest. She could not play piano. She had never even touched the keys. What was she going to do? Maybe she could tell Mr. Peterson she was sick. Maybe she could ask to go to the nurse. One by one, students went to the piano. Ashley played a classical piece that sounded perfect. Her fingers moved quickly over the keys and never made a mistake. When she finished, Mr. Peterson smiled and clapped. "Excellent, Ashley. You can tell you come from a family that values real culture." Brad played a different classical piece. It was not as good as Ashley's, but Mr. Peterson still nodded with approval. "Very good, Brad. You have natural talent." More students played. Some were good, some were not so good. But they all knew how to play something. They all had lessons. They all had instruments at home to practice on. Maya watched each performance with growing fear. She was the only one who could not play. She was the only one who did not belong here. She tried to think of a way to get out of playing, but she could not think of anything. Finally, Mr. Peterson looked around the room. His eyes found Maya in the back corner. A strange smile came across his face. "It was not a nice smile, Miss Johnson," he said loudly. "You have been very quiet since you started here. I think it's time we heard what you can do." Maya's heart started beating so fast she thought everyone could hear it. I don't know how to play piano, sir." The class became very quiet. Some students turned to look at Maya. She could see surprise on their faces, but also something else. Something that looked like they thought this was funny. Mr. Peterson's smile got bigger. "Oh, come now, Miss Johnson. Don't be modest. I'm sure someone with your ground has natural rhythm. Music is in some people's blood, isn't it?" The way he said background made Maya feel sick. She knew what he meant. He was talking about her skin color. He was saying that because she was black, she should naturally be good at music. It was like he thought all black people were the same. "I really don't know how to play," Maya said again. Her voice was very quiet. "Nonsense." Mr. Peterson said he was enjoying this. Maya could tell. "I insist you try. How can I grade you if I don't see what you can do? Come to the piano." Maya looked around the room. All the students were staring at her. Some looked curious. Others looked like they were trying not to laugh. Ashley whispered something to her friend, and they both smiled. Maya felt trapped. She could not say no to the teacher, but she also could not play piano. She knew that whatever happened next would be bad for her. Slowly, Maya stood up. Her legs felt weak as she walked to the front of the room. The piano looked huge and scary. The black and white keys seemed to go on forever. Maya had never been this close to a real piano before. She sat down on the bench. It was too high for her, and her feet barely touched the floor. She looked at the keys and did not know what to do. Behind her, she could hear students moving in their chairs. Someone coughed. Someone else whispered. "Go ahead," Mr. Peterson said. "Show us what you've got." Maya put her hands near the keys but did not touch them. She was so scared. She knew that when she tried to play, nothing good would come out. The other students would laugh at her. Mr. Peterson would make fun of her. Everyone would know she did not belong at this school. "I'm waiting," Mr. Peterson said. His voice was not patient anymore. It was mean. Maya heard Ashley whisper to someone, "This is going to be so bad." Brad said quietly, "I bet she doesn't even know which keys are which." Maya felt tears starting. In her eyes, she tried to blink them away. She could not cry in front of everyone. That would make everything worse. "Miss Johnson," Mr. Peterson said loudly, "we don't have all day. Either play something or admit that you don't belong in this class." The room was so quiet Maya could hear the clock on the wall ticking. She could hear cars outside. She could hear her own heart beating in her ears. Maya knew Mr. Peterson was trying to humiliate her. He wanted her to fail. He wanted to show everyone that she was different, that she did not fit in. He wanted to prove that poor black girls like her did not belong at fancy schools like Westfield Academy. Maya thought about her mother working 2 jobs to pay for this school. She thought about how proud her mother was that Maya got the scholarship. She thought about all the dreams her mother had for her future. Maya also thought about all the other students watching her. They expected her to fail. They expected her to be embarrassed. They thought she was stupid and poor and different. Something started to change inside Maya. The fear was still there, but now there was something else too. She was angry. She was angry at Mr. Peterson for being mean to her. She was angry at the other students for looking down on her. She was angry at the whole situation, but most of all, Maya was determined. She was not going to let them win. She was not going to run away crying. She was going to try, even if she failed, even if everyone laughed at her. At least she would try. Maya took a deep breath and put her fingers on the piano keys. They felt cool and smooth under her fingertips. For a second, she felt something strange. It was like the keys were familiar somehow, but that was impossible. She had never touched a piano before. "Finally," Mr. Peterson said with a mean laugh. "Let's see what happens when someone who knows nothing about music tries to play." Some students laughed too. Maya heard Ashley say, "This is going to be so embarrassing." Maya closed her eyes. She tried to remember any music she had ever heard. She thought about songs on the radio. She thought about music in movies. She thought about her mother humming while she cooked dinner. Then Maya pressed down on the keys. Maya's fingers touched the piano keys for the first time in her life. At first, nothing happened. She pressed one key, then another. The sounds were not music. They were just random notes that did not go together. Behind her, she heard someone laugh quietly. "Just as I expected," Mr. Peterson said with a smug voice. "Miss Johnson, you can stop now." "You've proven my point," but Maya did not stop. Something strange was happening. As her fingers moved across the keys, they started to feel more natural. It was like her hands knew what to do, even though her mind did not understand. Maya pressed a few more keys. This time, the notes sounded better together. They made a simple melody. Maya was surprised. She had not planned to play those notes. Her fingers had just found them somehow. "That's enough," Mr. Peterson said. "You can sit down now." But Maya could not stop. Her fingers kept moving. The melody got stronger and more beautiful. Notes flowed from one to another like water flowing down a river. Maya felt like she was not even controlling her hands anymore. The music was coming from somewhere deep inside her. The laughing in the classroom stopped. Students sat up in their chairs and paid attention. The music that Maya was playing was not like the classical pieces the other students had played. It was different. It was soulful and emotional. It told a story without words. Maya's eyes were still closed. She could feel the music in her whole body. Each note seemed to connect to her heart. The piano was not just an instrument anymore. It was like Maya was talking to it, and it was talking back to her. The melody changed and became sadder. Maya played notes that sounded like crying, but beautiful crying. It was the sound of all the lonely nights when her mother worked late. It was the sound of feeling different and not fitting in. It was the sound of being poor in a world of rich people. Then the music changed again. It became hopeful. The notes climbed higher and sounded like the sun coming up. It was the sound of her mother's love and sacrifice. It was the sound of dreams and possibilities. It was the sound of strength in the face of hardship. Maya's fingers danced across the keys like they had been doing it for years. She played with both hands now, creating layers of sound. Her left hand played deep, strong notes, while her right hand played a melody that soared above them. The music filled the entire room. Ashley's mouth was open in shock. She had been taking piano lessons for 8 years, but she had never heard anything like this. The music Maya was playing was not just technically good. It was alive. It had soul. Brad had stopped laughing. He was leaning forward in his chair, trying to understand what he was hearing. The other students were the same way. They had all forgotten to make fun of Maya. They were too busy listening to the incredible music she was creating. Mr. Peterson's face had changed completely. The mean smile was gone. He looked confused and shocked. This was not what he had expected. He had wanted Maya to fail and be embarrassed. Instead, she was playing music that was more beautiful than anything he had heard from his other students. Maya played for 5 minutes, then 10. The music kept flowing out of her like it had been waiting inside her whole life. She played melodies that told stories of struggle and hope. She played rhythms that made people want to dance and cry at the same time. As Maya played, something magical happened in the room. The divide between her and the other students started to disappear. Music was a language that everyone could understand, no matter what color their skin was or how much money their families had. The music Maya was playing spoke to everyone's heart. The melody began to slow down. Maya's fingers found their way to softer notes. The music became quiet and gentle, like a lullaby. She played the last few notes with such tenderness that the room felt like it was holding its breath. Then Maya stopped. She opened her eyes and looked at her hands on the keys. She could not believe what had just happened. Had she really played all that music? How was it possible? She had never touched a piano before today. The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Everyone was still under the spell of the music they had just heard. Finally, Ashley started to clap. Then Brad joined in. Soon all the students were clapping loudly. Some of them were standing up. They had never heard anything so beautiful in their lives. Maya turned around on the piano bench. She looked at all the faces staring at her. They were not looking at her with meanness or judgment anymore. They were looking at her with wonder and respect. That was amazing, Ashley said. Her voice was full of surprise. I've never heard anything like that before. How did you do that? Brad asked. You said you didn't know how to play. Other students started talking at once. They all wanted to know how Maya had played such incredible music. They wanted to know where she had learned to play like that. They wanted to know if she could teach them, but Mr. Peterson was not clapping. He was standing very still, staring at Maya with wide eyes. His face was pale and he looked like he had seen a ghost. That's impossible, he said quietly. You said you had never played before. Maya stood up from the piano bench. She was shaking, but not from fear this time. She was shaking from excitement and confusion. I haven't, she said. I don't understand what just happened. But you played like... Mr. Peterson stopped talking. He seemed to be thinking about something important. I played like what? Maya asked. Mr. Peterson walked closer to the piano. He touched the keys where Maya's hands had been. You played like someone who has been playing for many years. But more than that, you played with soul. You played like ... like... Maya asked again. Like jazz, Mr. Peterson said quietly. You played like the old jazz masters, but that style of playing, it's not something you can just learn. It has to be in your blood. Maya felt a chill go down her spine. What did Mr. Peterson mean? How could music be in her blood? The bell rang, which meant class was over, but no one moved to leave. Everyone wanted to stay and hear more of Maya's music. They wanted to understand what had just happened. Class dismissed, Mr. Peterson said, but his voice sounded far away. He was still staring at Maya like he was trying to solve a puzzle. As the students started to pack up their things, they all came over to Maya. For the first time since she had started at Westfield Academy, they were talking to her in a friendly way. Will you play for us again tomorrow? Ashley asked. Can you teach me how to play like that? Brad wanted to know. Where did you learn to play jazz? Another student asked that Maya did not know how to answer any of their questions. She did not understand what had happened any more than they did. All she knew was that when she touched the piano keys, something inside her had woken up. Something that felt like it had been sleeping for a long time. As Maya walked out of the music room, she heard Mr. Peterson call her name. Miss Johnson, he said. Please stay after school today. I need to talk to you about what just happened. Maya nodded and left the room. Her mind was spinning with questions. How had she played music she had never learned? Why did it feel so natural and familiar? And what did Mr. Peterson want to talk to her about? For the rest of the day, Maya could not concentrate on her other classes. All she could think about was the feel of the piano keys under her fingers and the beautiful music that had come out of nowhere. She kept hearing the melodies in her head, and her fingers moved like she was still playing. Other students who had been in music class told their friends about what happened. Word spread quickly through the school. By lunchtime, everyone was talking about the new girl who could play piano like magic. Maya ate her lunch alone as usual, but this time it was different. Students kept walking by her table and looking at her with curiosity and respect. Some of them smiled at her. A few even said hello. When the school day ended, Maya walked back to the music room. Mr. Peterson was waiting for her. He was sitting at his desk looking at some old papers. When Maya came in, he looked up at her with serious eyes. Sit down, Maya, he said. It was the first time he had called her by her first name instead of Miss Johnson. Maya sat in a chair near his desk. She felt nervous. Was she in trouble? Had she done something wrong by playing the piano? I need to ask you some questions, Mr. Peterson said. And I need you to tell me the truth. Have you ever had any music lessons? Even when you were very small? No, sir, Maya said. My family doesn't have money for music lessons. Have you ever played piano before today? Maybe at a friend's house or at church? No, sir. Today was the first time I ever touched a piano. Mr. Peterson looked at the papers on his desk. What about your family? Do any of them play music? Maya thought about this. My mom sometimes hums when she cooks, but she doesn't play any instruments. What about your grandparents or other relatives? Maya shook her head. I don't know much about my family. My mom doesn't talk about the past very much. Mr. Peterson was quiet for a long time. He seemed to be thinking about something very important. Maya, he said finally, what you did today was extraordinary. I have been teaching music for 25 years, and I have never heard anything like it. The way you played. It was like you had been playing your whole life. Maya did not know what to say. I want you to come to my class every day after school. Mr. Peterson continued. I want to teach you more about piano. I want to help you understand this gift you have. Maya was surprised. 2 weeks had passed since Maya's amazing performance in music class. Every day after school, she went to the music room to practice with Mr. Peterson. Each day, her playing got better and better. It was like the piano was teaching her its secrets. Maya learned that she had a natural gift for jazz music. When she played classical pieces, she was good. But when she played jazz, something magical happened. The music came alive under her fingers. Mr. Peterson said he had never seen anything like it. Word about Maya's talent had spread beyond Westfield Academy. Other music teachers came to listen to her play. Some of them could not believe that she had never had lessons before. They asked Mr. Peterson if he was sure Maya was telling the truth on this particular Friday afternoon. Maya was in the music room practicing a new piece. She was so focused on the music that she did not hear someone come into the room. When she finished playing, she heard the sound of someone crying. Maya turned around and saw an old black man standing in the doorway. He was wearing a janitor's uniform and holding a mop. Tears were streaming down his face. Maya had seen him cleaning the halls before, but she had never talked to him. I'm sorry, the old man said, wiping his eyes. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just cleaning the hallway and I heard the music. Maya stood up from the piano bench. It's okay, she said. I was just practicing. The old man walked slowly into the room. He looked at Maya with wonder in his eyes. Child, how long have you been playing piano? Just a few weeks, Maya said. I'm still learning. The old man shook his head in amazement. A few weeks? That's impossible. You play like you've been doing it your whole life. Maya smiled. That's what everyone says, but it's true. I never touched a piano before I came to this school. The old man walked closer to the piano. He ran his hand over the shiny black surface. What's your name, child? Maya Johnson, she said. When Maya said her last name, the old man's eyes got very wide. He stared at her for a long moment. Johnson? He repeated. Yes, sir. The old man sat down heavily in a chair. He looked like he had seen a ghost. Child, what's your grandmother's name? Maya was confused by the question. I don't know, sir. She died before I was born. My mom doesn't talk about her family very much. What about your mother's name? Linda Johnson? The old man nodded slowly. And your mother's maiden name? The name she had before she got married? Maya thought about this. She did not know much about her mother's past. I think it was Williams, but I'm not sure. The old man's hands started to shake. Child, I need to ask you something important. Did your grandmother ever live in Chicago? Maya felt confused. How did this man know about her family? I think so. My mom mentioned Chicago once, but she said my grandmother died when she was young. The old man stood up suddenly. He walked to the piano and touched the keys gently. Play something for me, he said. Play whatever comes to your heart. Maya sat back down at the piano. She played a sad, beautiful melody that seemed to tell a story of long ago. The music was full of pain and hope at the same time. It sounded Like memories of better times mixed with the sadness of lost. As Maya played, the old man began to cry again. But this time, he was not just crying, he was sobbing. The music seemed to be breaking his heart and healing it at the same time. When Maya finished playing, the old man could barely speak. "Oh, my lord," he whispered. "It's true, it's really true." "What's true?" Maya asked. She was getting worried about the old man. "Child, my name is Robert Williams, I think. I think I might be your great-uncle." Maya felt like the world had stopped spinning. "What?" "Your grandmother," Robert said, still crying. "Was her name Ruby? Ruby Williams?" Maya's heart started beating very fast. "I don't know. My mom never told me her name." Robert wiped his eyes and looked at Maya with love and sadness. "Child, I think your grandmother was my little sister. And if that's true, then you're playing her music." "I don't understand," Maya said. Robert sat down next to the piano. "Let me tell you a story about a woman named Ruby Williams. She was the most talented piano player anyone had ever heard. This was back in the 1950s and 60s, when things were very different for black people." Maya listened carefully as Robert began to tell her about her grandmother. "Ruby could play any kind of music," Robert continued, "but jazz was her special gift. When she played jazz, it was like the piano was singing. People would come from all over Chicago just to hear her play." "What happened to her?" Maya asked. Robert's face became sad. "Ruby played in all the best jazz clubs in Chicago. She played with some of the most famous musicians of her time. People said she was as good as any of the great jazz pianists. But because she was a black woman in those days, she never got the recognition she deserved." Maya felt a chill go down her spine. She was starting to understand something important. "Ruby had a daughter," Robert said. "A little girl named Linda. That was your mother. When Linda was about 10 years old, Ruby got very sick. The doctor said it was cancer. Ruby died when Linda was only 12. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "My mom was only 12 when her mother died?" "Yes, child. And Linda was so hurt by losing her mother that she never wanted to talk about music again. She never wanted to remember the pain, so she never told anyone about Ruby's talent. She never told anyone that her mother had been a famous jazz pianist." Maya felt like her whole world was changing. Her grandmother had been a famous musician? Her mother had hidden this from her all these years? "But how do you know all this?" Maya asked Robert. Robert smiled through his tears. "Because I was there. Child, I worked as a sound technician in those jazz clubs. I heard your grandmother play hundreds of times. I watched her make people cry with her music. I watched her make people dance and laugh and feel things they had never felt before." "And you think I play like her?" "Child, you don't just play like her. You play exactly like her. It's like her spirit is living in your fingers. It's like she passed her gift down to you through the blood." Maya looked at her hands. Could it be true? Could her grandmother's musical talent have been passed down to her? "There's something else," Robert said. "Ruby had a special way of playing. She would close her eyes and let the music come from her heart. She would play melodies that told stories. Without words. She would play like the piano was talking to her soul." Maya gasped. "That was exactly how she played. She always closed her eyes and let the music flow out of her heart." "Ruby also had a favorite type of music to play," Robert continued. "She loved to play blues and jazz that told stories about struggle and hope. Music that came from the pain of being black in America, but also from the strength and beauty of surviving." Maya thought about the music she had been playing. It was always emotional. It always seemed to tell stories about hardship and dreams and the strength to keep going. "I need to show you something," Robert said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old, worn photograph. "This is your grandmother." Maya took the photograph with shaking hands. It showed a beautiful black woman sitting at a piano. She was wearing a fancy dress and smiling at the camera. But what made Maya gasp was how much the woman looked like her own mother. And like herself, she was beautiful, Maya whispered. "She was magnificent," Robert said. "And child, you have her eyes. You have her hands, and most importantly, you have her gift." Maya stared at the photograph. She felt like she was looking at a part of herself she had never known existed. Why didn't anyone tell me about her? Maya asked. Because your mother was protecting herself from the pain, Robert explained. When Ruby died, Linda was heartbroken. She decided to leave Chicago and start a new life somewhere else. She changed her name when she got married and tried to forget about the past. She thought if she didn't talk about Ruby, the pain would go away. But the pain didn't go away, did it? Maya asked. No, child, the pain stayed and so did the gift. Ruby's musical talent was passed down to you. It was waiting inside you all these years, waiting for the right moment to come out. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. She finally understood where her music came from. It came from her grandmother, a woman she had never met but who lived on through her. Does this mean I'm really a musician? Maya asked. Robert smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. Child, you're not just a musician. You're the continuation of your grandmother's legacy. You're carrying on something beautiful and important that could have been lost forever. Maya looked at the piano with new eyes. It was not just an instrument anymore. It was a connection to her past, to her family, to a part of herself she was just discovering. Will you tell me more about her? Maya asked. I'll tell you everything I remember, Robert promised. And child, I think it's time your mother knew that Ruby's gift lives on in you. Maya nodded. She knew it would be hard to talk to her mother about this, but she also knew it was important. Her grandmother's story needed to be told. Her grandmother's music needed to be remembered, and Maya was the one who would make sure that happened. That evening, Maya sat at the kitchen table waiting for her mother to come home from work. In her hands, she held the old photograph of her grandmother, Ruby. Her heart was beating fast as she thought about what she was going to say. When Linda finally came through the door, she looked tired as always. She had dark circles under her eyes from working 2 jobs. But she smiled when she saw Maya. Hi, baby, Linda said, hanging up her coat. How was school today? Maya took a deep breath. Mom, we need to talk about something important. Linda sat down across from her daughter. When she saw the serious look on Maya's face, she became worried. What's wrong? Are you in trouble at school? Maya put the photograph on the table and pushed it toward her mother. Mom, is this my grandmother? Linda's face went completely white. She stared at the photograph like it was a snake that might bite her. Her hands started to shake. Double quotes. Where did you get this? Linda whispered. Mr. Williams, the janitor at school, gave it to me. Mom, he says his name is Robert Williams. He says he was Ruby's brother. He says Ruby was a famous jazz pianist. Linda picked up the photograph with trembling fingers. Tears immediately started flowing down her cheeks. I haven't seen this picture in 20 years, she said quietly. Mom, why didn't you ever tell me about her? Linda wiped her eyes and looked at her daughter. Because it hurt too much, Maya. When my mother died, I felt like my whole world ended. She was everything to me. I decided that if I didn't talk about her, maybe the pain would go away. But Mom, she was a musician, a real musician. Don't you think I should have known that? Linda nodded slowly. I know I should have told you. But every time I thought about it, I remembered how much I missed her. I remembered how empty the house felt after she died. I remembered how the music stopped. Maya reached across the table and took her mother's hand. Mom, I need to tell you something. Something amazing has happened at school. For the next hour, Maya told her mother everything. She told her about the music class and how Mr. Peterson had tried to embarrass her. She told her about playing the piano for the first time and how the music just flowed out of her. She told her about the daily lessons and how everyone was amazed by her talent. Linda listened with wide eyes. As Maya talked, Linda's face changed from surprise to wonder to something that looked like joy mixed with sadness. You can really play. Piano? Linda asked. Like really play? Come with me to school tomorrow, Maya said. Come hear me play. Then you'll understand. The next morning was Saturday, but Mr. Peterson had given Maya a key to the music room so she could practice on weekends. Linda came with her daughter to Westfield Academy. She had never been inside the fancy school before when they walked into the music room. Linda gasped. The beautiful piano looked exactly like the one her mother had played in the jazz clubs all those years ago. "Go ahead, baby," Linda said. "Play for me." Maya sat down at the piano and closed her eyes. She let her fingers find the keys and began to play. The music that came out was the most beautiful thing Linda had ever heard. It was sad and hopeful at the same time. It told stories of struggle and dreams and the power of love. As Maya played, Linda began to cry. But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition and joy. The music Maya was playing sounded exactly like her mother Ruby's music. It had the same soul, the same passion, the same ability to touch people's hearts. When Maya finished playing, Linda was sobbing. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You sound just like her." "You sound exactly like my mother." Maya got up from the piano and hugged her mother tightly. "Mom, I think Grandma Ruby's gift has been passed down to me." Linda held her daughter close. "I'm so sorry I never told you about her. I was scared and hurt, and I thought I was protecting us both. But I see now that I was wrong. You have a right to know about your grandmother. You have a right to know where your talent comes from." Over the next few weeks, everything changed for Maya and her family. Linda began to tell Maya stories about Ruby. She told her about the jazz clubs and the famous musicians Ruby had played with. She told her about Ruby's dreams and hopes and the discrimination she had faced. Robert Williams became like a grandfather to Maya. He came to her practices and told her more stories about Ruby. He even had some old recordings of Ruby playing, and when Maya heard them, she cried. The music was beautiful and powerful and full of the same spirit that Maya felt when she played. Mr. Peterson became Maya's biggest supporter. He apologized many times for the way he had treated her in the beginning. He helped Maya apply for music scholarships and arranged for famous musicians to come hear her play. Word of Maya's talent spread beyond Westfield Academy. Local newspapers wrote stories about the girl who had inherited her grandmother's musical gift. Jazz musicians from around the country came to hear her play and offered to teach her, but the biggest change was in Maya herself. She was no longer the scared, invisible girl who sat in the back of the classroom. She walked with confidence now. She spoke up in class. She made friends with other students who respected her talent and wanted to know her better. Ashley, who had once looked down on Maya, became one of her best friends. "I'm sorry I was so mean to you when you first came here," Ashley said one day. "I was jealous because my parents spent so much money on my piano lessons, but you could play better than me without any lessons at all." "It's okay," Maya said. "I understand now that talent comes in many forms. You work hard at your music, and that's important too." 3 months after Maya first touched the piano, Westfield Academy held a special concert. Maya was the featured performer. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, parents, and music lovers from the community. Maya walked onto the stage wearing a beautiful dress that her mother had bought for the occasion. She sat down at the grand piano and looked out at the audience. In the front row, she could see her mother crying with pride. Next to her sat Robert Williams, who was smiling and nodding encouragingly. Maya began to play a piece she had composed herself. It was called Ruby's Song, and it told the story of her grandmother's life and dreams. The music started softly, representing Ruby as a young girl discovering her love for piano. It grew stronger and more complex as it told about Ruby's career in the jazz clubs. Then it became sad and gentle as it remembered Ruby's death, but the piece did not end in sadness. Instead, it transformed into something hopeful and triumphant. It was the sound of Ruby's gift living on in Maya. It was the sound of dreams that never die. Even when the dreamer is gone, when Maya finished playing, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. People stood up and cheered. Some were crying. Others were shouting, "Bravo!" Maya had not just played music. She had shared her soul, her family's story, and her grandmother's legacy with everyone. After the concert, Maya was surrounded by people who wanted to congratulate her. Music teachers offered her scholarships to famous music schools. Record producers wanted to talk about making an album. Newspaper reporters wanted to interview her. But the most important moment came when her mother hugged her backstage. Your grandmother would be so proud, Linda whispered in Maya's ear. She would be so happy to know that her music lives on in you. Mom, Maya said, I want to learn everything I can about music. I want to become the best pianist I can be. But I also want to remember Grandma Ruby and make sure her story is never forgotten. That's exactly what she would have wanted, Linda said. 6 months later, Maya was accepted to the most prestigious music conservatory in the country with a full scholarship. She would study both classical and jazz piano. She would learn about music theory and composition. She would develop her natural talent into something even more powerful, but Maya never forgot where her gift came from. She kept her grandmother's photograph on her piano wherever she played. She told Ruby's story in interviews and concerts. She made sure that people remembered the talented woman who had been overlooked. Because of the color of her skin and the time she lived in. Maya also started a scholarship fund for other young musicians who came from poor families. She wanted to make sure that talent would never be wasted because someone could not afford music lessons. Years later, when Maya had become a famous jazz pianist herself, she would think back to that day in Mr. Peterson's music class. She would remember how scared and alone she had felt. She would remember how Mr. Peterson had tried to humiliate her, but she would also remember the moment when her fingers first touched the piano keys and her grandmother's gift awakened inside her. She would remember the music flowing out of her like a river that had been dammed up for too long. Maya learned that talent is not about money or fancy schools or expensive lessons. Talent is something that lives in the heart and soul. It can be passed down through families like a precious gift. It can sleep for years, waiting for the right moment to wake up. Most importantly, Maya learned that no one can take away what truly belongs to you. Mr. Peterson had tried to make her feel small and worthless, but he could not stop the music that lived inside her. He could not silence her grandmother's legacy. In the end, the girl who had been forced to play piano as a cruel joke became one of the most celebrated musicians of her generation. She proved that sometimes the most beautiful flowers grow in the most unlikely places. She proved that love and talent can survive anything.